Baby Lollipops, the shocking murder that shook Miami. It was a quiet morning in Miami Beach when utility workers stumbled upon a discovery that would send shockwaves through the entire city. Hidden beneath the bushes of an upscale neighborhood lay the lifeless body of a small boy. He was painfully thin, covered in bruises, and wearing a t-shirt that would later earn him the heartbreaking nickname, Baby Lollipops. Something horrific had happened to this child. Whoever was responsible had discarded him like trash, as if his life had never mattered. But who was this little boy? And more importantly, who had done this to him? As police dug deeper, they uncovered a harrowing story of cruelty, neglect, and betrayal, a case that would lead to one of the most shocking murder trials in Florida's history. A tragic beginning. Lázaro Figueroa was born on September 18, 1987, a child who should have known love, care, and warmth. Instead, he was born into a world of chaos and violence. His mother, María Cardona, had endured a life of hardship long before she ever became a mother. Growing up in Havana, Cuba, under Fidel Castro's rule, she experienced extreme poverty and abuse. Her childhood was marked by trauma, and at just 10 years old, she suffered a brutal assault that would haunt her for the rest of her life. As a teenager, she battled substance abuse, homelessness, and depression, making multiple attempts to take her own life. By the time she was 16, she had turned to the streets to survive. Desperate for an escape, Ana saw her opportunity in 1980 during the Mariel boat lift, a mass migration of over 125,000 Cubans to Florida. She was one of them, arriving in Miami as a young woman, alone and pregnant with her first child. With no money, no job, and no support system, she continued the only lifestyle she knew, one of survival. That's when she met Fidel Figueroa. Fidel was no ordinary man. He was a drug dealer, deeply connected to Miami's violent criminal underworld. In 1980s, when cocaine cartels ruled the city, Fidel was making a fortune in the trade. With him, Ana's life changed overnight. She went from struggling on the streets to living in a penthouse, driving sports cars, and even having a maid. She had money, power, and security, but at a cost. Ana spiraled deeper into drug addiction, partying, and reckless behavior. By 1985, she gave birth to a daughter. By 1987, she was pregnant again, this time with Lázaro. But just weeks before Lázaro was born, Ana's world shattered. On September 20, 1987, Fidel was gunned down under mysterious circumstances. To this day, his killer remains unknown. Ana was left alone, but not penniless. Fidel had left behind a $100,000 inheritance, including a condo. She had a chance to build a stable life for herself and her children, but instead she wasted everything. A mother's downfall. Rather than using Fidel's money wisely, Ana squandered it all on Miami's party scene. She indulged in drugs, alcohol, and lavish spending until there was nothing left. As her money ran out, she lost everything: the home, the cars, the illusion of stability. Her reckless behavior eventually drew the attention of Child Protective Services, CPS. Reports suggested that she left her children with babysitters for long periods. Some sources claim they were placed with relatives or friends, while others say they ended up in foster care. Regardless, Ana showed no interest in turning her life around. Eventually, she regained custody of her children, but by then, they were homeless, bouncing between motels, struggling to survive. Then, in 1989, she met Olivia González Mendoza at a Miami Beach nightclub. The two women bonded over their love of partying, and their relationship quickly intensified. Soon, Olivia invited Anna and her children to move in with her. Out of options, Anna accepted. At this point, Lázaro was just 18 months old. The abuse begins. Anna and Olivia lived a transient lifestyle, constantly drifting between run-down motels, barely scraping by. Their main source of income came from Olivia's odd jobs and petty crimes, keeping them afloat but never truly stable. However, behind closed doors, something far more sinister was unfolding. Anna had never formed a true bond with her son, Lázaro. Instead of seeing him as her child, she viewed him as nothing more than a burden, a cruel reminder of the life she had lost. Her resentment festered, twisting into something even darker. She began calling him bad birth as if he were a mistake that should have never existed. What started as neglect soon morphed into pure hatred. For nearly 2 years, Lázaro endured horrific abuse at the hands of his own mother. He was beaten, starved, and locked away for days at a time. His diapers were wrapped in duct tape so Anna wouldn't have to change them. He was tied to furniture, confined in dark closets, and forced to endure baths in scalding or freezing water. Any chance at a normal childhood had been stolen from him. Olivia wasn't just a bystander, she was an active participant in the cruelty. She stood by as Anna tortured Lázaro, sometimes even helping to restrain or punish him. The abuse escalated, growing more severe with each passing day. But on Halloween night, 1990, the unimaginable happened. Things took a turn for the worse. The murder of Baby Lollipops. That night, Olivia took a baseball bat and swung it with full force, smashing it into Lázaro's tiny head. The impact was so severe that it split his skull open. A blow no child could possibly survive without urgent medical attention. But instead of rushing him to a hospital, they locked him in a closet in the same dark, suffocating space where he had already spent the last 2 months in isolation. By the next morning, he was barely clinging to life. His frail body trembled, his breaths were shallow, and yet, when Anna and Olivia checked on him, the terrified little boy screamed at the sight of them. His reaction only fueled Anna's uncontrollable rage. Gripping the bat, she swung again, delivering another devastating blow. A few hours later, Lázaro was dead. But even in death, his suffering did not end. Instead of calling 911, instead of treating his tiny body with dignity, the women dressed him, carried him to their car, and drove to Miami Beach. Under the cover of night, they dumped him in the bushes as if he were garbage, as if his short, tortured life had meant nothing. Then, in a display of unimaginable cruelty, Anna and Olivia went to Disney World, leaving behind the horror they had created, as if it were just another night. The discovery. On November 2, 1990, Florida utility workers made a grim discovery in the bushes of a wealthy Miami Beach neighborhood: a frail, lifeless child. The boy was alarmingly underweight, weighing only 18 pounds, about half of what he should have for his age. His tiny body bore the unmistakable signs of prolonged abuse. His right eye was swollen shut. His diaper was filthy and wrapped in packing tape, and his skin was covered in bruises, burns, and scars. It was clear he had suffered immense cruelty in his short life. But the most haunting detail was the t-shirt he wore, which featured a lollipop design. With no identification, no missing child reports matching his description, and no one coming forward to claim him, police were left with only this single clue. As news of the heartbreaking discovery spread, the public gave the unknown boy a name that would forever be tied to one of Florida's most infamous child abuse cases: Baby Lollipops. Justice for Lázaro. When Anna and Olivia learned that Lázaro's body had been found, they panicked and fled Miami. But their escape didn't last long. Police tracked them down and arrested them. At trial, Anna tried to blame Olivia, claiming she was the real monster, but Olivia cut a plea deal, testifying that Anna was the one who delivered the fatal blows. The jury didn't hesitate. Ana Maria Cardona was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. However, years later, her conviction was overturned due to a legal technicality. In 2017, she was retried and found guilty again. This time, she was sentenced to life in prison without parole. She died in prison in 2021, a name finally remembered. For years, the world knew him only as Baby Lollipops. But now, his real name, Lázaro Figueroa, is etched in history. His tragic story is a reminder of the importance of protecting the innocent. And while justice was served, nothing can undo the horror he endured.